Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today we have with us new president, Mike Reicheck, who has actually been in the role for a little over 6 months now, so he's got a little bit of a head start. But we're going to hear from Mike today on what we can expect from convention. We're going to hear about what he has plans for this upcoming year, as well as some other great conversation between Mike and Tracy and Christy. So we hope you enjoy today's episode, and we will see you again next week.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Exchange. I'm Tracy Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club.
And I'm Christy Lindahl, Director of Communications.
Hi, Christy.
Hey, Tracy.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
You know, by the time we get to this episode, we're in a new administrative year. Mm-hmm. It's July. You know, our administrative year for the National Exchange Club and all of our clubs starts July 1st. Mm-hmm. So even though it comes mid-year, it's time to start new projects, plan for the year.
Ramp it up.
Have some good things going on, absolutely. And also time for elections. Mm-hmm. Our club officers start their new term. Our district officers start our new term. And starting as national president will be Mike Reicheck. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
How are you today?
Super great and getting better.
Awesome. Well, right. You know, and as you like to say in Texas, this is not your first rodeo because you stepped into the role of acting national president about 6 months ago.
I'm calling those my bonus months.
Yeah, absolutely. You got kind of a head start. And how's that been for you? How have the 6 months been?
Good, crazy, fun. Challenging, all the above?
Yes. Good. So knowing what you know now and what you've experienced in these months, do you feel like that's prepared you well to be the national president when you're installed in July?
I think so. You know, anytime you have an extra 6 months out of the pan and into the fire, you know, you're more prepared for the fire.
Well, absolutely. And one thing we appreciate that you've been doing is really being communicative. Really, you know, you're a person who, unlike a lot of people, is completely comfortable picking up the phone and calling people and having those conversations. So I think, too, that puts Exchange in a good position because you're modeling necessary communication. It always amazes me because in a day and time, Christy and I talk about this all the time, where communication is easier than ever, but people don't do it because it still takes that effort, right? And we appreciate that you make the effort.
Well, I talk better than I type. and I don't need spell check.
That is true. True.
It's easier for me.
So what are you most looking forward to doing this year?
Just meeting more people that, you know, folks that you've heard their name and you really don't have much of a relationship. So building relationships, it's really all about relationships.
Well, it is. You know, that's a primary thing about service clubs. You get to know people and you build those relationships, and most of the time that's what keeps people involved, right?
Absolutely.
I think if you talk to any of our longtime members, they'll mention the relationships they've formed as a leading reason for them sticking around.
And a lot of the people we see at the conventions who have come year after year after year continue to do so because of the friendships that they've built, those relationships. And I love to see how people from, you know, perhaps California stay in contact with people in North Carolina, and they're not just talking about exchange, but they're talking about their families and vacations, and it really becomes part of who they are at that level.
I agree.
You know, we always talk about you'll make relationships all over the country. You know, that's one of the selling points talking to people about joining Exchange. And it's hard to fathom, but it's really true when you get immersed and you see people on Facebook and you continue relationships. And then at the national convention, you get to reestablish those face-to-face connections. It's just really about building friendships. That's one of the things that we talk about is one of the primary things that happens in exchange is you make new friends.
Well, most definitely. And another experience you'll have, which will be so great, is not only meeting people with familiar names, but meeting people that you would never see at any other exchange event. And a lot of those people don't even know we exist, any of us, right? The headquarters, the national president, the staff, anybody. So it's a really good chance to introduce somebody to the value of being part of a national organization, right?
Well, that's true, and that's at the club and the district level. That's really kind of the challenge, is getting those people that are new, who haven't been there before, to come and experience it.
Yes.
I know for myself, I joined Exchange in 1997. The first national convention I went to was in 2011.
Wow.
At the 100-year anniversary, but I haven't missed one since.
Awesome.
So that's, once you go, you keep going back.
Yes.
Yeah. And, we go to different conferences as part of our continued training and, broadening our scope of understanding. And it's really refreshing to know that we roll out the red carpet for our new our new attendees, not new members, new convention attendees.
Yes.
We want them to understand what the experience is, to get the most out of it, to enjoy it. And we give them the little banner, the little badges to wear if they so choose, so that people know it's their first time, and reach out and make them feel welcome.
Well, they should choose to wear that ribbon because it gets them into our First Timers Lounge,
Ding, ding.
which is awesome. And in fact, I heard from an Exchange Club leader who's a member of another organization. She went to her first conference with that organization. They did absolutely nothing to welcome her, nothing to make her feel special, and nothing even to help her at her first experience. So that was interesting. So as you go about to different exchange events across the country, Mike, and you meet maybe some new Exchange Club members, people new to Exchange or people that you haven't met, what do you say to them? What would you say is Exchange's biggest strength in just kind of connecting them with the national organization?
Well, I think it is about the relationships. It's about, meeting people who genuinely care, who, are of the same mind about the things that we do, and are people of action. I've always said that, there's people who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who say, what happened? And we're actually a group of people who get together and make things happen. So that's
absolutely,
you get people at conventions, you see them getting awards as member of the year, or just different awards, and that they're on the front line of actually doing something.
Absolutely. So people from all over the world tune into this podcast, which is awesome. So if somebody is listening, they could certainly go to nationalexchangeclub.org and they could click on the Find a Club and find a club in their area. So why should somebody do that? Why should somebody join a club? If they've been invited to a meeting or they're thinking about joining an Exchange Club, what are your thoughts to compel somebody to join us?
Well, we have some amazing things that people can leave a meeting with, and they talk about a 30-second speech or a 3-minute speech. I always try to just bring it down. I've heard it expressed two different ways. I say that Exchange is about doing good through our projects of service, having fun, making new friends, and building professional relationships. If none of those things are of interest to you, maybe Exchange isn't for you. I just think like that's a pretty wide net. But I've also heard it expressed that if you love your kids, if you love your community, if you love your country, and the idea of children being abused and neglected disgusts you, then that's another quick and easy 4-point. This is what Exchange is, and this is what's in it for you.
Okay, sure. And it's interesting too to point out, since you talked about professional relationships, that Exchange started as one of the first networking organizations when our founder, who was a jeweler, brought together different businessmen to help grow their business. And as they did that, they could give back to the community. And that still stands true today, because if you're going to look for somebody to repair your roof or do your taxes, you're going to look within the people you know and trust. It's back to those relationships you talked about.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot lot of opportunity for all of these ideas to take root.
Yes.
With the way a lot of our clubs have kind of they were forced to restructure and look at the way they do things in 2020. And now we see a lot of clubs who are very, very interested in new ideas and people with new talents. And it kind of forced us to think that maybe our traditional way of doing things wasn't going to work anymore all the way,
Right.
because we were forced into a digital era in 2020.
Absolutely.
So we've seen clubs who say, they're welcoming 25-year-old with professionals. They're welcoming them in, and they're saying, what can you bring to us professionally? You got a graphic designer? Do you have somebody who works in advertising? That sort of thing. And they're really working with those skills. What I've seen is clubs becoming a lot more positive and inclusive of everyone's talents.
Yes.
And finding out how to use them. They don't want just a seat at the table. They want someone who can contribute.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a long way for me to say that.
No, I get it. You're right. People want to join the club and be involved.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we're
Gone
seeing
are the
more of
days
that.
when people just want to sit down and have lunch
That's true.
all day.
Well, Mike, I know you mentioned how long you've been involved in Exchange. How did you happen to join your club?
Well, mine is a different story than most. We talk about most people are invited to Exchange, and I guess I was as well. But I was invited through a little ad in the paper that they throw in your driveway for free. My club was new, and they just put out an ad announcing that, we're looking for new members. I was self-employed. I was at my desk most of the time. So I was in a position that I was of heart to give back to the community. And it gave me a chance to get up and away from my desk once a week and meet new people and make new friends and possibly, earn a little business along the way. It just checked a lot of boxes for me. And, I continue to tell people when they join Exchange, don't wait to be asked, get yourself involved.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's really the key for it working. You have to, I don't know. I never really considered myself as that outgoing, but I was willing to throw my name in the hat and raise my hand and say, sure, I can help with that.
Good.
I thought it was pretty benign, but I got myself over my head pretty quick. Well, I never looked back.
Well, those ads do work, apparently. That's awesome. Caught your attention.
There was somebody back in our history who said, what's the one thing that doesn't work? And the only one thing that doesn't work is doing nothing. Everything else
That's
works.
true.
Everything else works to varying degrees, but the only thing that doesn't work is doing nothing. So I think that's always a lesson that I know after we came back from last year's convention, I got a call from a district president-elect, and he said, what's the one thing that we need to be doing? And I said, the one thing we need to be doing is everything.
No pressure.
You've got to do it all. You've got to reach out to your community through every source you have. You've got to use social media. You've got to use people that word of mouth. You've got to be welcoming. You've got to look like something that people would want to join. So you've got to be professional. You got to be prepared. And the one thing is that you have to do it all.
Sounds like Mike wants people to be genuine. I like that.
Yes. Well, too, it makes me think about just the welcoming environment of clubs. And that's a good point, because you're right. A club needs to, I think some clubs get, it would be good for them to take an outsider's view of their club to see how welcoming they are to somebody else, because if people don't leave that club meeting or project feeling like they can see themselves being part of that, they won't join. And there are a lot of reasons they won't. And so that is a challenge for you in your role, for us as national staff, because, we have a lot of awesome tools and resources, but we can't ensure that particular club is a club that a person would want to join. It's up to them with their culture and their community.
Yeah.
So you mentioned getting involved right away. How did you get involved, and what today is your favorite project that your club does?
Well, how I got involved, somebody held up a VHS tape, so that dates it right there. This was the late 90s, about a duck race. We just need someone to take a look at this tape. And I said, sure, I can look at it. And then, I came back and they said, is this something we could do? And I said, sure, we could. And I had no idea that meant, and I'll be happy to chair
yes.
this inaugural signature event. It's hard to raise $20,000 or $30,000 selling rubber ducks $5 a time, but we did it.
Awesome.
So we talk about that. We still laugh about that. We did that for 10 years, and now the ducks have retired to the golf course. So we have a annual golf tournament as our fundraiser, and we call it the Duck Golf Classic.
Well, I like a lot about what you're having to say about that. What I like is that you're not still doing that same project just because you always did it, right? You're a club, and you obviously realize that things change, times change, you need to evolve and perhaps do something different that better suits the needs of the club and the community.
Yeah, taking an inventory of, where you stand every couple of years is a great idea. Are you still aligning with the community's needs?
Right.
Is there a need you should be providing that you're not? Is there a need you are providing that's no longer applicable? That's the kind of stuff that brings longevity to a club.
Well, for sure, and we're getting some good insight about that as club members fill out the member experience survey, which I know Mike is a big believer in getting those results, and also in utilizing that member interest form. Talk about how you envision that being used, Mike, that member interest form.
Well, it's we've had so many situations where people, and we can debate whether or not they came for the right reason or not, but it basically says, these are the things I'm interested in. So it's basically saying, okay, if I don't get myself plugged in, then here's where you can reach out to me and help me get plugged in. And this is what I'm interested in. And these are the kind of things that, okay, if we've got a committee for that, then okay, let's get you on that committee. And if we don't have a committee for that, then let's talk about how maybe we can help form a committee for that. It's all about meeting people's needs. You talk about meeting them where they are. So we've asked them, what's of interest to you?
Well, right.
And when they tell us, then it's up to us to engage with them on that. But I want to go back to a point we were talking about before in terms of being welcoming. You're exactly right. I don't know if we call it the house committee or the welcoming committee, but my club, we have a table that you come up to, and you walk in the door and somebody welcomes you, and we've got some materials out there, and we've got somebody to help you kind of figure out, are you in the right place? Who are you? Are you waiting for somebody? If they're not here, let us, take you in, get you a name tag, just kind of make people feel like they're in the right place instead of wandering around lost and wondering. So that's just a part of that. Like I said, whether you call it the house committee, whether you call it the welcoming committee, it's that first thing that they see that goes, oh, okay, this is okay. I'm going to survive this experience, and it's going to be good.
Right, and somebody that makes you feel like they're happy you're there is important. I want to go back to what you said about engaging people, because really that's what that member interest finder does, is it starts a conversation. So we don't want people to just check some boxes and turn it in. I believe at the bottom of it actually says, talk to your club officers, have and it starts a conversation so that they can get together and find out, what do you like to do? Hey, so does this person. Let's do that together. Let's place you on this committee, or maybe at some point you want to run for this office. So it really is about, everything we do is designed to engage people, designed to get them talking, right?
And, I just have to caution that if you're a club officer and you're asking your club to give you this feedback, the members, and you're taking that inventory, you better be prepared to act too.
Yes.
Something, what's worse than somebody not asking you how you feel about something is somebody asking you and then failing to actually care or act on it. So if you're going to put it out there, you better be ready to make those improvements, or people are going to feel like they don't matter.
Good point. Good point. So I like the ways we're encouraging people to engage and the ways they're engaging with us.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about relationship building, just
Absolutely.
like Mike said earlier, and it's about continuing those relationships. Human relationships are not simple. We're all very different creatures, so that's why we provide these tools to help break down those barriers and to help you see the commonalities you have with other people and build those relationships that will then benefit the community. So it really is cyclical.
Well, you're right. I was having a conversation with someone the other day who was talking about the behavior of someone, and I was talking about, as a former and sometimes Dale Carnegie instructor, I said, well, that's why courses like this exist. And the person kept coming back and saying, but they shouldn't. People should know this, but they don't. Hence why there's
a lot of
so
things
important.
People should know. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Exactly. So back to your leadership, Mike. Let's talk about, what do you hope to collectively see this organization, the National Exchange Club, accomplish this year?
Well, I think that, if we can meet our members' needs and reduce the people who leave, so if we can close the pipeline of losing members and continue to attract new members, then we can grow, and that is our lifeblood. It allows us to build more relationships. It allows us to make more friends. It allows us to do more to benefit our community. It allows us to meet our professional, our personal objectives. It allows us to feel good about ourselves and the organization that we care so much about. So that's really where I'm kind of focused on, is growth that starts with retention. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. You and I've talked, our members are our customers.
That is true. And, I was thinking too about the customer aspect, because certainly at the national headquarters, we think of our members as customers. But you know what? I think sometimes the districts and the clubs need to think of those people as members. The district board needs to realize those are customers who have a right to expect a certain level of service and attention and focus. And so I appreciate that you're carrying this message as well, so that at every level we treat our members as customers.
Yeah, we have a lot of great leadership in place right now that do understand that our clubs are the customers. And they understand the different marketing segments that we work with, that the clubs have different customers than we do in the districts, but all of those people have stepped up and said, yeah, I took a leadership role for a reason, because I'm here to lead. And I'm really excited to see where we're going to go with that.
Well, that's a good point. We want our leaders to take that role because they want to lead, because they want to take action, to your point, Mike, where they want to do everything that's involved in that role, right?
Yeah.
Good.
But I think we also need to be conscious of and actively let people know that Exchange offers the opportunity to develop those leadership skills. And I always talk about in an environment that's not quite as threatening as your job.
Absolutely.
So, I've never had a lot of formal leadership training. So I'm learning as I go. I call it flying by the seat of my pants. But, we give one another some grace for the fact that, we're exposing ourselves and expanding our horizons. And sometimes that, we make mistakes along the way, and that's okay. We learn from them, we grow from them. And that's another thing that I think Exchange offers people, to step up to leadership, knowing that, okay, we don't know it all.
Well, right. And they have the support that they need. Nobody's doing this alone. But I'm glad you referenced the education, because via your leadership track that you chose, you've been able to participate in a lot of training sessions, educational sessions, conferences. So to your point, I'm sure that's benefited your life in many ways, both in and outside of exchange, right?
Well, we're all a work in progress, so there's no doubt about that. And you sometimes you dust yourself off and you reflect on, gee, I could have done that better, and that's a growth process that we should all be in. I'm adamant that you're either moving forwards or you're moving backwards, and if you're standing still in place, truth is you're moving backwards.
Oh, absolutely.
So, we've got the chance to move forward.
So what would you say to those listening who know nothing about the National Exchange Club?
Well, like I said, I try to keep it simple. We're about doing good. We're about having fun. We're about making new friends, and we're about developing professional relationships. And really, for an individual, through our programs of service and our projects, you really kind of get to tailor that to what works for you.
Yes.
I always let people know that we are non-political. We're in a election year that could be divisive. We don't need to go there. We are non-denominational, so that we cast a wide net. And as long as you're interested in working with us to inspire our communities, we have a place for you.
We do indeed. We welcome everybody.
It doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter where you came from or where you are. We're all moving forward together.
We have no exclusions. I like that. And what message do you have for our valued Exchange Club members who are listening?
Well, we've kind of touched on it, and it's get yourself and keep yourself involved. I think that's the key to a rewarding relationship with Exchange. We get to meet new people, make new friends, further develop relationships, and we talked about that briefly, but that's what it's all about. It's all about relationships. It's all about growing in those relationships. Who doesn't want to make new friends?
Absolutely.
So I think that's what we offer to not just our existing members, but new members, prospects. You talked about being welcoming, but I'm a big believer in the prospect list of everybody who we've ever, every parent whose child has ever gotten an award or money, every business that's ever spoken to us. All of us have run across somebody somewhere at some time who said, gee, I really like what you do. It's just not a good time for me. Maybe there's something going on in my personal life, my business life. It's just not a good time for me. And time goes on, and now is a good time, but we've lost top of mind awareness for them. So we need to always, I call it drip marketing, not be a pain, not be a nuisance, but once in a while, just reach out and let them know that we're still here and there's still a place for them. Somebody now, like I said, now is a good time, and they've forgotten about us. So shame on us.
Thank you for that. And thank you for serving. Thank you for your service to the National Exchange Club. We wish you a great year as national president. We appreciate your service to Exchange and your enthusiasm for the organization. Yeah. Absolutely. You're a believer, and I'm sure it's fulfilled your life, and I hope it continues to do so.
No doubt about it. We're moving forward, and we this year, next year, and for many years to come.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Mike. We look forward to working with you. So it's our pleasure to serve alongside you. To our listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Exchange. And for more information, please visit nationalexchangeclub.org.